Of the International Women's Coffee Alliance, as many of you know, is to empower women in the international coffee community to achieve meaningful and sustainable lives, and to encourage and recognize the participation of women in all aspects of the coffee industry. We have chapters in 24 countries. That means formal organizations who've completed an 8-step process to become members of the IWCA. The work of each chapter is different. It's self-defined, it's self-driven, but all are united by support of the IWCA mission. A very much empowered woman who is joining us today and will walk us through some excellent content is Miss Andrea Pacas. She is the CEO and co-founder of Coffunity, and she'll be sharing with us today what Coffunity is, why it was invented, and her role both as CEO and co-founder, as well as member of the IWCA El Salvador Chapter. Andrea, we very much thank you for taking your time to share with the IWCA community and look forward to what you have to say.
Thank you so much.
Before I officially turn control over, I do want to ask those listening in, take note of Ms. Jimena Lanfiesta's email address here. If you have ideas for future webinar topics, please do mail them to Jimena. She'll be keeping track and helping us to design future webinars. Now, without further ado and further interruption, I'm going to turn control over to Miss Andrea and ask her to help us understand Coffunity. Andrea, the controls are all yours.
Thank you. Well, hello everyone. I'm really honored to be here and to be in the launch of this new Global Connect series from IWCA. To start a little bit, I want to introduce myself and let you know a little bit about me. Let me see if this works. So my name is Andrea. I am 24 years old. I am the co-founder and CEO at Coffunity, as Karen just said. I have been an IWCA member in El Salvador since 2018. I'm also a 6th-generation coffee producer. I'm also the founder of the New Salvadorian Coffee Federation. If you haven't heard about that, it's kind of new, but you will hear about it soon. And I am also a bachelor in marketing. And I want to start with something that we all know, and maybe all of us are aware of, and this is that the coffee industry is in trouble. We start by noticing how coffee farming has become a business that is not as sustainable as before, and it has been for a couple of years or more than a couple of years. We also have people in the industry that don't share information with each other, so we can be in the same country, in the same hill, and then there's this farm that is really pretty, that is working perfectly, and the farm that is beside it is not working as well. And this sometimes happens because people become a little bit jealous with the information or with different practices that they've come upon, and they don't share it with other people, and sometimes we have this disparity. The third point is that people, especially consumers, don't know what they're drinking or even what they're paying for. They think this is something that happens a lot, and as people within the coffee industry make a lot of effort to be able to communicate a lot of things to consumers, consumers sometimes don't speak the same language as we do, so sometimes they don't really understand what we're trying to communicate. The fourth point is that information is inconsistent and really hard to find. And here I want to tell a personal anecdote. I recently got in contact with some guys from the Coffee Roasters Guild to ask them what the standards for roasting were. And they do have something based on actron levels and stuff like that, or temperatures or color, but they said, there's so many different terms used in so many different countries that we kind of just don't have a standard information to teach. So I was really impressed by this, and I think it's something that we should really work on. Then traceability is not a common practice. And when I think about traceability, I don't think it goes one way. It goes two ways. It has to go from the farmer to the consumer, as well as from the consumer to the farmer. Sometimes we have this misconception that transparency has to benefit people at the end of the value chain and not the people at the beginning of the value chain. And lastly, we have all noticed the different environmental factors that are affecting coffee production, the economy in the coffee industry. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. And there are still very low wages, and some of us already know that this is due to the fact that coffee production started in colonial or neo-colonial times where wages were really low and access to land was really easy. But things have changed, and the coffee production has not changed because it hasn't been able to. So before I go on to tell you about the products that we have, I want to tell you a little bit of Coffunity's history. I got the initial idea of Coffunity in 2016, almost 3 years ago. And as I said before, I'm a 6th generation coffee producer, so I've been surrounded by coffee my entire life. And I was at a family dinner and we came across a mobile app called Vivino. So in this app, you can take a picture of a wine label and you get information about the grapes, about the vineyard, about the flavors, about the prices, about the caskets. So something just clicked that day, and I said it would be so awesome to have something like this for the coffee industry, and it could result in in much more benefits than Vivino might have, because the coffee industry is facing so many issues. After that, it was a lot of months of thinking and brainstorming and seeing what the best thing we could do was. And by 2017, we obtained the first round of funding from a family friend. And then came the mistakes, of course, because everyone has mistakes. We launched a coffee label contest, and the objective of this contest was that people were going to send pictures of coffee labels and information for us to build a database. But the problem was that this coffee label contest got to Russia, it got to Greece, it got to Japan, and suddenly we got 14,000 coffee labels and we couldn't read half of them. So it was kind of a very failed mission, but it was a learning point. And after that, we kept working on the app that we really wanted to launch. So in 2018, in March, we were able to launch a beta version of Coffunity because we wanted to present it in the Specialty Coffee Expo in Seattle in 2018. And luckily, we were able to win the Best New Product Awards, not one, but two. We got the Best New Product for Technology, and we got the Best of Show. And for me, this was a huge deal because we were competing in technology with Bellwether. We were competing against espresso machines. We were competing with a lot of people that have been in the industry for much longer than we had. And I also knew that our app was not ready and it hadn't reached its potential yet. So it was really nice for me to know that we had been able to surprise people and that people got the idea of what we were trying to do. And after that, we were able to finally launch our Android version. And this year has been a really great year. First, we were the first Central American startup ever to be accepted in a Google Launchpad program, which is a very intensive week where you're surrounded by Google professionals and they help you with your product, with your strategy, with your growth and stuff that is really important for us to be able to grow more and grow better. And this September, we'll be launching new products. No, this October, we'll be launching new products. So that's kind of a little summary of our history. And now I want to explain actually what Coffunity is. So Coffunity as a platform is where Instagram, Vivino, and Amazon meet coffee, which is a very simplified way to say it. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to build the largest coffee community and help the world drink better coffee. Now, if you've gone to some expos recently, you might have seen this phrase a lot. We made this our motto, and then people just use it as well, and sometimes it's a little disappointing. But drink better coffee for us has a lot more meaning, and it's because we divide this phrase in two. First, drink better, which refers to the consumption of coffee, and we want to make it more responsible, more fair, more educated, more connected. And then we have better coffee, where we want the industry to be more transparent, more traceable, more responsible, and more sustainable. So as you can see, it's not just drink a coffee that is better than what you're already drinking, but it has a deeper meaning for us. This is the structure that we as Coffunity work on, and all of our products are based on three very important pillars. Let me see if I can get. So the first pillar is connect, the second is learn, and the third is discover. And what we have here is kind of a cycle that happens constantly. And for every person who joins Coffunity, we want this to happen. So we start by connecting people. And connecting people is not just having them join an app, but we want them to feel welcome and a sense of belonging in this community. When you start belonging to a community, you say, okay, I just joined this community. I want to know more about it so I can be like a better component of this community. So you start to learn. And when you learn, you are motivated to discover. You want to know what else there is. So maybe you learned about different varietals, or you learned about different milling processes, and you say, I want to try this. I want to discover who or where can help, who can help me get access to this, or how can I try this specific varietal. And when you discover something new, then you're motivated to contribute to the rest of the community, because if we don't, then everyone is doing kind of their little community in a single cell. And what we want to do is be able to grow this community. So when you contribute, others can see what you've discovered, what you've learned, and then connect again. And obviously the coffee industry has a really important role here, because when people connect to Coffunity, they start creating more direct relationships with the rest of the coffee industry. And the coffee industry can create awareness for people to learn. And the coffee industry can be exposed for people to discover new things to try. So this is kind of the pillars of how Coffunity works and what we want to achieve with this coffee community that we're building. And now I am going to present. I'm having some trouble here. Let me see. So this is the newest Coffunity app version that we're going to launch this October. And I'm really excited to present this. I feel a little bit like the Apple event right now, but I'm really excited about this product because, as I said, it's based on the diagram that I showed you before. So we have an integrated feed where people will be able to see coffee ratings, they will be able to see lifestyle posts, they will be able to see the newest articles that are on different online magazines. We also have a discover section for people who are looking for something specific and for people who don't know what they're looking for. My favorite part of this discover section is the map section. So I think many of you have experienced something similar that I always experience is I get to a new city, I'm already used to drinking very good coffee. I go on to Google Maps and the first thing that appears is a coffee that we all know and maybe has not the best quality. So what do I have to do to find good coffee, even if it's a little out of my way? And this is what we're doing with maps. We want to create a map that shows you roasters or retailers that sell coffee, and it will not be based on parking or seating arrangements or if the AC was too high or too low. We want to do it based on the coffee ratings. So this is something that we're really excited to launch. It will take a lot of work, but we're really excited to be able to give this opportunity for you guys to never miss a good cup of coffee anywhere you go. After that, we have a library as well. So we have all the articles that we will be publishing in our home section. And my other favorite part of this app is a library glossary. So what we want to do is be able to put in a very simplified and organized way and summarized way all the information that anyone needs to learn more about coffee. Why? Because right now I'm sure that if one of you guys wants to investigate anything about coffee, you will have 20 tabs open in your browser, and information will be inconsistent and really hard to find. So I will talk a little bit more about this part. And I would like to present you the other product that we have been working on, and this is the business dashboard for roasters. This business dashboard allows roasters to complete their business profile and upload all of their coffees and keep them up to date. We have around 200,000 coffees in Coffunity's database, and most of them we added since 2016. So as you know, they will be very, very outdated and maybe not even existing anymore. Right now, we would like to make a Q&A break. So if you have any questions based on what I've presented previously, please feel free to ask them right now. And maybe Blanca, you can help me to get the questions if anyone has some.
Thank you, Andrea. This has been very helpful. If you have questions right now, due to the number of attendees that we have and the very high potential for background noise, we would ask that people use the chat feature of GoToMeeting. So if you're looking at the panel that appeared when you logged in, it should be at the bottom, and you'll see a gray tab that says chat with a little arrow pointing down. Please go ahead and type your questions in there, and we'll make sure that Andrea sees them. If we don't have time to get to all of your questions now, they'll retain in the chat feature, and we'll make sure to get them at the Q&A session at the end. Andrea, right now I'm seeing a question from Ruth Ann Church. I don't know if you see that question.
Yes.
Okay, for everyone, if you can't see the chat function yet, the question from Ruth Ann is, who is the target audience for purchasing the app? Roasters, farmers? Andrea.
Okay, so I want to start with something really important, and it's that the app is absolutely free for everyone to use. As we're on a mission to build the largest coffee community in the world, we don't want to put any obstacles in it. So first of all, it's free, and the target is everyone in the coffee value chain. So we want roasters to be interacting with producers, we want baristas to be interacting with consumers, and all the other types of relationships that can happen since, as I said before, information sometimes is not shared and sometimes you just don't have access to it. So for example, if a coffee producer is sharing some images from their farm that is looking really pretty, a consumer maybe can come across this picture and say, huh, I didn't even know where coffee came from. And we want, like in the consumer side, we want to cover, first we want to start by specialty coffee consumers and then go down from there so they have this reference of what the community is about and what topics they should join in to and stuff like that. So I hope this answers your question.
Thank you, Andrea. Anyone else? Does anyone have any other questions before we launch into the last section of the presentation? Andrea, Ruth Ann is asking how you sustain the business.
Okay, so I don't know if we have, I don't know, Callum, if we have enough time for that or we should leave it for the end because it's kind of a long answer.
Okay.
I will answer it. So yeah, perfect, Ruth Ann. So
please go ahead with the last part of the presentation. And those joining us, if you have questions that come to mind, please feel free to type them in the chat now, and we'll make sure to start with the questions that have come in at our next Q&A break at the end. Go ahead, Andrea.
Okay. So in Coffunity, we want to create opportunities for everyone. And this is kind of an answer for Ruth's question as well. So right now in this new version, we are launching producer profiles. And we want to create a section, especially for IWCA, to have all IWCA producers in one place. And when people enter your profile, they can learn about your history, the farms that you work on, the regions that you grow your coffee, the different varietals that you manage, and the roasteries that you work with. This is really important because right now, I think most of the spotlight is being shown upon the roasters who sell you the coffee, especially for consumers. And sometimes the producer is just a name. So we want people to have this, we want consumers to have a direct relationship with producers, which is something that doesn't really happen. And I think it can make this coffee, the value chain, more human. After that, we also benefit roasters. So roasters have another type of profile. And with the business dashboard that I showed you before, you can create your profile, people can follow you, and you can share information about your business, contact information, and keep your coffees up to date, as I said. So when anyone enters a roaster profile, they can see the coffees that you work with. I'm sorry about the example here because it's different roasters, but basically the idea is for this to be kind of like a website, not stealing the thunder from your websites, but for people who don't have a website, this is a perfect place for people to learn about you, to contact you, and to see what your products are. After that, we're also looking to benefit baristas and consumers with their own user profile where they can share their coffee ratings, they can share lifestyle posts. I want to clarify that lifestyle posts are just like if you were making Instagram posts, but with your life around coffee. Because sometimes a producer does not know what the daily life of a barista is and vice versa. And you can also get information about this person, as much information as you want to be to have available for others. And you can have your own wish list, your own comparisons, and basically it's a log of the coffees that you've tried, the coffees that you want to try, and the rest of your information. So this is a good way for people within the industry and within the coffee consumers to interact in different ways. And finally, we want to benefit magazines, independent blogs, independent podcasts, because there's a lot of really great content out there. And sometimes people have to, as I said before, they have to go to different magazines to get different news. So we want to consolidate all of this and have this available for everyone in Coffunity to be able to access easily and keep up to date and in the know of everything that is happening with coffee. Now, my favorite part, which I told you is my favorite part, is the library glossary. So in this glossary, we have started with very basic topics like origin profiles. So you can see the profile of any country that produces coffee and information about the coffee history of that country, what is the area where they grow the coffee, what different varietals grow there, the different altitude ranges. Then we have processing methods and what they're all about. I know there's people who call things differently, but we want to kind of centralize this information and have it available for other people to learn about it, whether it's people within the industry or its consumers. So when they come across a coffee label and see that this coffee is a honey processed, they can understand what it means and not just say, okay, like, okay. Then we have a flavor section, and right now it's only based on flavors, and of course we'd love to add things like acidity types or body types for coffee. But this is kind of a start for people to start using more rich language and to start speaking the language that we coffee nerds talk, that sometimes other people can't understand. Then we have the varietal section, and here's a really good news. We've actually created an alliance with World Coffee Research, so they will be powering this section. We're actually right now we're building this database to be able to present this information as organized as possible for you guys. So same thing, when you come across a varietal, you can start learning not only what it tastes like or its different profiles, but you can learn about its resistance or where it comes from and stuff that might be helpful for farmers, for producers, for buyers, for consumers. Then we have the producers part, which is the one you saw here. And basically, we've also done, we want to have every producer here, of course, but we do want to have featured producers. First, we'd love to have IWCA members here listed. And we've also created an alliance with the Alliance for Coffee Excellence. So Cup of Excellence winners will also be listed separately for people to be able to access their information more easily. Then we have classifications. What does EP mean? What does hard bean mean? What does excelso mean? So all of these things that people usually put on a coffee's name are not really understood by everyone, and people within the industry have a very vague idea of what they mean as well. So we want to clarify all of these terms. Then we have the roast levels. What does each level actually mean, and what they like, what the color is, what the temperatures is, how many cracks and stuff like that. I mean, there's so much things to discover here. It's infinite. And then there are certifications. So we want to have Rainforest Alliance, we want to have UTC, we want to have bird friendly, and what all of these certifications imply for a producer. So sometimes you think putting the Rainforest Alliance logo in your bag gives you a benefit. It does, because it's a recognizable brand, but it's really important as well for consumers and buyers to understand what producers have gone through and all the efforts that they have put into their farms to be able to get these certifications. And as I said, this is only the start, because we want to continue with brewing methods. And here we want to change the game a little bit, inviting different baristas to show how they brew their coffee with different methods. We also want to explain a little bit more about the cupping system, because a consumer does not understand what 90 points means sometimes. We also want to have topics related to transparency. So what does FOB mean, free on board? What does back to origin mean? And different terms that are being used recently related to transparency that we should all learn about. Then coffee prices, farming best practices, and awards, for example, the Golden Bean, or if your coffee was used for a Barista Championship. So basically, we want to create the new internet of coffee in one place, in an app in the palm of your hand, which I think would be really useful in many ways. Now, as I said before, we've established some collaborations. So we already established our alliance with ACE, with World Coffee Research. We're doing this event obviously with IWCA, which I'm really fond of. We're in constant conversations with Transparent Trade, which is really new. We're also in constant conversation with Coffee Roasters Guild and Cropster. We have confirmed to be able to share different news from Daily Coffee News and Barista Magazine. I would love it if one day we could be able to have standard articles in a digital format in Coffunity. And then there's other prospects that we want to reach out to afterwards to be able to make this app a real community where each entity and where each organization has the same role they have right now, but in this more unified community. And talking about alliances, well, for IWCA, I think there's so many opportunities. Kellum and Blanca have told me that we don't only have producers, we have exporters, we have roasters. So I think it presents a really nice opportunity for IWCA to be able to be exposed, for IWCA's projects and achievements to be published for other people in the industry to see, and to be able to encourage more women to risk some things and be able to achieve things that they thought were not possible. And I think it's just very important. And as I said, I'm really fond of IWCA and all the work they do. So I think it's really important to give them some time in the spotlight and to be able to be exposed for the rest of the coffee community. Just to finish up, this is a general status of app users. Right now we have almost 7,000 users in over 81 countries. Most of them, as you can see here, are in the US, because that's where we've made a better effort at advertising. Then we have 10% in the UK, 10% in Australia, and 35% in other countries. Just to give you, just to show off a little bit, Coffunity has been downloaded in all of North and South America except for 5 countries. And that's like a really big deal for us, because it means that people have discovered us some way or another, and that people are talking about us. And when we divide this into the type of users there are, we have 26% consumers right now, 68% baristas, 4% producers, and 2% roasters. And these two are obviously very important to have more of. So that's where our efforts are going to be in the near future. And what are the next steps for Coffunity? We need to launch our latest app, our latest dashboard that will be available in October as well, and a new website. We need to continue looking for collaborators and key industry players. So if you have any suggestions, they're always welcome. We need to get more roasters on board of the business dashboard. So we have a lot of coffees and they're up to date. And also the businesses can get a lot of benefits from being here. We want to create a very massive consumer study on transparency and traceability. I think this is one of our most ambitious missions, but I think it's really important to get a nice scope of how the industry is being able to communicate things to the consumer. We're also right now working on raising a new round of funding. So we might be in San Francisco in January, or Miami or somewhere, because we are applying to different programs that can help our business grow. And finally, always create better products, new solutions for everyone in the coffee value chain, from the producer to the end consumer, and always continue to help the world drink better coffee. And I think it's time for more questions and answers. And I hope you really liked Coffunity.
Thank you, Andrea. That was wonderful. Everyone on the webinar, I invite you, if you have questions, to please go ahead and type them in. Andrea, one question that comes to mind for me is how are you navigating, or how do you plan to navigate in future versions, language differences? I know, especially through IWCA, the majority of IWCA chapter members in 24 countries speak English, but also many are more comfortable in Spanish, French, Portuguese, and so naturally it's a challenge to have a resource such as Coffunity that unites everyone and then navigates differences of language. Have you all thought about that?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's something. I mean, I speak Spanish. It's my native language, so I know how important it is to be able to make this as accessible as possible. We have to go step by step though, because it's something that we shouldn't invest in right now, based on the place we're in. But of course, in the future, I mean, English was the most obvious a language to go with, but after that we are going with Spanish, we're going with Portuguese, we're going with French, and at some point we'd love for Coffunity to be available in any language that people want it to be, as well as for example, price, the different currencies are shown on the app, so people don't have to get their calculator out and convert it.
Wonderful. And certainly no one understands the need to be cautious and pragmatic with each step more than IWCA. So believe me, we completely understand. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your perspective on that. Anyone else? If you have questions,
to answer Ruth Ann's questions from before.
Perfect. And I also before you launch into that, I also just want to note for you that you have two other questions waiting in the queue right now, or one other question right now waiting in the queue, and both pieces of feedback are very positive, loving the app. So please go ahead.
Thank God. Okay, so the revenue streams for Coffunity, we're going to start with the business dashboard. Right now we have a free version that people can use to claim their business and upload their copies. But after that, we want to make the relationship more direct with consumers. So we will have a subscription model for the business dashboard for roasters. We're defining the price still because we want to make it as accessible as possible for all kinds of roasters. So if you're a micro roaster and you have 4 coffees, sometimes it's not really convenient to be paying a high price, but then there's other roasters that have 50 coffee offerings. So we want to see what the best price is for, like, to be able to generalize this product for everyone. After that, we will have advertising, but it's not any kind of advertising, it's coffee related advertising. So when you enter the app, you get asked what type of user you are, if you're a roaster, if you're a producer, if you're a barista, you're a consumer. And in this new version, we know we had missed a lot of other types of users, like exporters, importers, retailers, etc. So the ads will be directed to the market that will actually pay attention to it. So we want to have, for example, I don't know, people who fabric coffee cups to be advertised for consumers and baristas maybe, and people who fabric roasting machines to be advertised for roasters, and people who fabricate espresso machines to be advertised for baristas and for coffee shop owners and stuff like this. That's a second revenue stream. And the last one is the most difficult one, and it's like reaching the gold, which is having a coffee market, roasted coffee marketplace. So, because one of the things that I dislike the most about the coffee industry, especially in coffee producing countries, and it's something that obviously I love coffee, okay, forget that. But it's really frustrating sometimes that people in coffee producing countries are sometimes not able to try the best coffee that their country produces because they're sent somewhere else. And there's another anecdote here. I have a friend who lives in New York. He went to Colombia, to La Palma y el Tucán, and he tried this really nice coffee, and he wanted to buy, I think it was 12 ounces, and they said that most of it was in Austria. So he went back to New York and he ordered the coffee through a friend who was in Austria, and then he finally got the coffee. So if we could make a more connected marketplace where people can order any coffee they want from anywhere they want, which is really hard based on different laws and other types of conditions that countries and governments manage, it would be really awesome. And there's one more revenue stream will be being able to conduct a series of studies and analysis on the consumer behavior and the rest of the coffee community's behavior, and be able to publish that yearly for people to use for their businesses or for projections or for, I don't know, even to make decisions about the stock you will have it in your shop. So that's for revenue streams that we're going to work on. Let me look for.
I think if you look at Debbie Drain, she's calling us from Park City, Utah.
Hello, Debbie. Okay, so is there a different area for a roaster to build their boat? Yes. The business dashboard, I don't know if you were able to see that one. The business dashboard is only available on a desktop or a laptop, so you can manage all the information from here, and it will be reflected on the app because it's much easier to be able to add the information of your coffees here than on your cell phone. If you want to claim your business, if it already exists in Coffunity, there's a button that you can click that says claim my business, and we will get an email and follow up on that. And if you don't find your roastery on the app, please let me know. You can write it in the chat, or you can send me an email later on, and I will follow up on that as well. Let's see.
And everyone, if you have not already, if you could please take a moment to type in the chat where you are reaching us from. I think that would be very helpful for us at IWCA, but also for Andrea and her team to know which countries they're reaching on the webinar today. Thank you, Sharon. Sharon's calling in from Springfield, Illinois. Sharon is the president of the board of the global organization. Thanks, Sharon, for joining us today. Anyone else that has a question or thoughts that they would like to share with the CEO and co-founder of Coffunity and IWCA El Salvador Chapter member? We've got her here today, and I have no doubt, Andrea, that you have a very busy day ahead of you every day this week and going forward. So folks, if you have questions about the app or have questions about Andrea's story, please feel free to share those now. Also want to make sure to note that this will be recorded so that it's available for other members of the IWCA network going forward. Lorena, who is chiming in from Ecuador, just shared a note for you, Andrea. And any other questions or any other parting thoughts that you'd like to share, Andrea? Any questions you have for the audience here?
No, I just really want to thank everyone for listening in, and I know most of you who are listening I've already talked to, and I want to thank all of you for your support, especially IWCA, which has been a really nice place for me to learn since I joined a year and a half ago. It's been one of the places where I've learned the most. And after all, while we're building this community, it's really important for every one of us to be able to chip in whatever resources or information or anything we have, not because Coffunity will benefit from it, but the entire coffee community will benefit from it. So if you have any recommendations, any feedback, any ideas for us to work on, they're always welcome. Here's my social media handles. If you want to ask something or you remember something afterwards that you want to ask me, please feel free to contact me later on. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. I see a number of IWCA Global Board members, Ruth Ann Church and Claire Harriman. I also see Maria Boto, IWCA El Salvador Chapter President and longtime member of the IWCA Global Board. She served for many years to grow both the global organization and the El Salvador organization. And I see many members from IWCA chapters and chapters in formation from across the globe. Thank you for your time today. As Andrea shared, her contact information is on the screen. Also, as you think about the future for this IWCA Connects webinar series, if you have ideas, things that you want to know about, things that you know other IWCA chapter members want to know about, please don't hesitate to share them with Jimena or Blanca or myself. Otherwise, thank you all for joining us today. This recording will be made available and the link will be shared with you. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. And of course, Andrea, thank you so much for your time and all of the work you've done to create this incredible resource.
Thank you really much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.